Hey, this is Daniel with the Ballbusters Radio Show podcast, RokuTV channel, Josh Who TV channel, Josh Who Radio Network channel, and I'm on BitChute and Breadion. Not a huge fan of the last one. And I was on brand new too, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, I did a video on that already, and that one is a little bit, it's pretty funny. It sucks for me and other people that were using that platform, but it's actually kind of karmatic justice for the people who created or pretend to have created but outsourced everything, the platform. So if you haven't seen that video, check it out. And I did some work on that last night as a follow-up. I read some of the comments that have come out since then from other people, the hackers as well. One of the emails I received from the hackers, and we'll go into that. And so last night I did about 3.5 hours worth of recording, and I went through a bunch of different topics, and it probably could be chopped up into different videos. One of the things was I went over the Putin speech. Putin and another person in his party or, in his ranks gave very long speeches denouncing the globalist New World Order, essentially, and attacking centralization and, promoting the protection of sovereignty and culture and identity and things like that. But he also made a distinction between us and our government, which I find very important and very telling of the man as far as, are we to worry about him, or are we to let things happen to our government because they're the ones that are oppressing us, right? I see him as a liberator. I'm still going to stick to my guns on that one. The videos I've put out previously showing the history of his actual actions and his words, I think speak pretty highly of his intent and his direction. And I'll leave it at that for now because I could just spiral into that forever. Okay, so last night I also talked about, in a different section, the the new executive, it came out in March, the executive order by Joseph R. Biden, acting pretender, meat puppet, and geriatric citizen, who said a bunch of stuff about central banking cryptocurrency, right? Central banking digital currency, CBDC. And I just wanted to kind of bring out the fact that we've been conditioned for this for the last at least 5 years, to accept this as just the way things are now. And what do I mean by that? Things like Twitter, things like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, you name it. Wherever there's censorship, wherever they can demonetize you and stop your currency, stop your income, they have been conditioning you that this is just the way things are now. If they don't like what you're saying, if their fascist ideals of what should be spoken about and what should be hidden, interfere or conflict with what your message is, they'll simply shut you off. They'll take away your ability to provide for your family. If you're a channel and that's your sole base income, they'll turn off your monetization like they did with Seeking the Truth's channel. Like they would have done with mine if they didn't delete it first. Okay? Twice. So they're already conditioning us to this just be more of the same. And elimination of actual tangible assets, funds, you own nothing and like it. The only thing that doesn't own property is property. So that should tell you what they think of you. They're considering you all slaves, property of the state, including your children, which they don't think, as far back as Hillary, that the state, it takes a village, but they're talking about themselves. They're not talking about like a community. They're saying, get the hell out of the way, family. It's the state's job to raise your children. Communist, Marxist, transgender, raped, tortured, and killed for their pleasure. So this passive compliance, now it's not passive in the sense that it's they're being passive. What it is they're easing you into this sense of the way things are now, where if you do speak out, there's punishment and reward. If you toe the line and you only talk about benign, nonsensical stuff or entertainment or whatever, and you ignore all the problems that are directly affecting you throughout your life, that are on your mind, that you have to suppress now, because if you want to, make a video, you got to talk about puppy dogs and ice cream, otherwise you get canceled. That's punishment reward. What do you think a digital currency social credit score system is? They can just shut you off, starve out your family, right? Make it impossible for you to enter buildings, do all kinds of things like that. And things like YouTube. So centralization, and it's talked about all the way through that EO. Centralization is evil, because all they have to do is control one entity, and it's no different than it's indistinguishable from the governmenting apparatus. Just because it says it's a corporation, we're a corporation, USA Incorporated, and controlled by foreign investors, City of London. Okay, so if we're talking about this type of system, if there's no alternatives, if they consolidate everything into one monopoly, into one trust, then you have no options. There's no escape. If they make gold and silver illegal to possess, if they use things like the IRS to destroy your finances and consider you a criminal for God knows what, if they use the ATF and the IRS system, now that they have these new soldiers that they're developing over time, the 1,000% excise tax on firearms, everything in your safe or wherever you keep them. Could you imagine? Think about that. 1,000%. That means if your gun costs $100, it's $10,000 now. Or is that right? How many zeros is that? Maybe it's 100,000. But that's, instead of actually going after, making it illegal or getting rid of the Second Amendment, no, they're just going to create a tax. This has been proposed already through Congress, and it's going to gain traction because this is the United Nations disarmament plan. Public Law 87-297 from 1961, signed by JFK, and even though he killed the Bricker Amendment, which would never allow another amendment, basically, to the Constitution to erode it and destroy it, regardless if they wanted a constitutional convention or not. He shot that down, and he signed a disarmament pact that's actually public law now, has been for a while, and it's a slow erosion to the goal, because they know they'll hit too much resistance if they did it all at once. So it's over time, eroding. Same thing what they do with every type of thing they need to implement. They ease you into it, and generation after generation that pass away, that now the information and the understanding of what life used to be is lost, and they can start off with you young and teach you a whole new system, and this is all that there is in the world. That's all that there is. Put the blinders on. This is what real happiness is. This is what living to your fullest means. Statism. A religion within a governmental system. Statism. Mommy, daddy, you should be dependent. You should not be self-reliant. You should not have the ability to make yourself self-reliant. All food should be poisoned so that you have to eat theirs and take whatever poison they put in that. And the Joker product effect of having vaccines jabbed into you that have suppressive attributes to it, to where it's, the things that normally regulate cancer cells are now impaired so that they can go out of control and spread out through your body, and then feeding you chitin in crickets that will accelerate carcinogenic cell growth in you. Gee, is that like Codex Alimentarius, the destruction of mankind by the billions through malnutrition and starvation? Even though you're getting fed, it's killing you. They're eliminating all nutritional qualities to all your food through GMOs, spraying. More bad than good. More bad than good every time you take in something that you eat. And if you think that your products in your garden are somehow better, what the hell are they spraying above him? Do a soil sample sometime. Costs money to do that, but when you want to find like a real, breakdown of what's in there by the particles and, a very fine detail of what that is and what they do to you and how, even test the vegetables themselves. I've seen videos where they're injecting your food. I've seen videos where they're coating it with some kind of poisonous wax. I mean, there's wax on things. I understand that. I get that, but there's other things that they don't need to put in there that they do. So this all points to hell on earth, guys. What will it take? Are you going to wait until you're already in checkmate, till the boot's already on your throat, before you decide to do something about it? Too late. And then you can say, well, we tried. And then you can go to your grave knowing that you let your family down and you condemned them to a certain death because you were a pussy. Okay? Hey, man, I'm just calling it how it is. I'm not saying I'm any different, but the one nail that stands up gets hammered down, as we've been shown. People like, I don't know, even people that just want to break away, not even society, but a community. They get burned to the ground, and their children get smoked out, gassed out, and then murdered too. Waco, right? All over bogus lies. There was no child abuse going on there. There were no machine guns. They had paperwork for all this stuff. They weren't stockpiling weapons. They were selling them as a business to provide for the community. They were going to gun shows and selling them legally with all the paperwork. It was all a bunch of bullshit. And they had to get rid of a couple ATF agents that were once attached to the Clinton security detail. You can't have them walking around with that kind of knowledge, so they had to take care of them. There's a video in the Waco, The Big Lie, that I put on my BitChute. You can find that. It's not from me. It's actually from back in the day, like not too long after Waco happened, showing video of an ATF agent. 3 or 4 of them go into a window, and then another guy on the roof starts shooting into there and throwing flashbang grenades. Well, obviously, if the people just walked in ahead of him, the only people he's going to hit are his people. So 4 of them died. That number lines up. Another one said that they were coming from top down, meaning from the helicopter were sniped. So that wasn't the guys in Waco doing that. That wasn't the Branch Davidians shooting those people. Anyway. So let's talk about the esoteric metaphysical origins of the Ballbusters channel for a moment. It's going to be kind of weird, but I'm going to get into it. All right. So the Ballbusters channel, myself personally, 2012. Some strange things happened. Okay? And I'm just going to lay it out there. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to be honest, forthcoming. I am not somebody who does any, besides being a recreational user of stuff whenever I happen to be at a party. I don't do stuff, and I don't do anything at all anymore besides kratom, okay? And kratom is just for making you feel less like you're dying from all the poisons that you're taking in on a daily basis and making you feel old before your time. So kratom is good for that because it's not even an opioid. It's something different. It's some kind of alkaloid, but it's not the same thing. It doesn't hit the receptor the same way. It doesn't hold the button down forever. It doesn't have to be reset. All that stuff, you know what I mean? You don't need a bogamine to get yourself back to normal or anything like that. The point being, when something's legal and you can buy it online, and you're used to using supplements all your life because you had energy issues since a child or since your teens. Like, I used to take hydroxycut. I used to take Xenadrine when they had mahang extract in it, which is ephedrine, HCl. So when they started taking that out of the products, they kind of condemned me to being a zombie because coffee doesn't shake it out for me. I needed something else, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't get anything done. I wouldn't have the motivation in the gym. I wouldn't have the ability to keep my head from hitting the freaking table in college. So back in 2012, I wasn't in college anymore. I got out of college in like '03 or '04, but I was experiencing this again, and it was pretty harsh. And I needed something that I could function on, and like I said, I was drinking organic dark roast, finely ground coffee and all that stuff, and nothing was happening. I just get jittery and racing thoughts, but the energy thing is kind of still not there. Like there's some kind of pressure on my body, just pushing me back like that. So I found this thing online, and I did some research on this thing called MDPV, methylalanine. Like it's two different things, right? MDPV. What does that mean? Well, it was a legal substance, a legal, not illegal, a legal substance at the time, and it had a common name, Bolivian bath. It also went as bath salts. Now, I have to explain this to you guys because this has been not addressed by anybody that I know of. I haven't really been searching, but I haven't come across it either in my going abouts of things. This one is like one of those ones where they let the lie just settle without any, because nobody wants to talk about it, right? Because it's like, oh, it's disgraceful to talk about substances or something, I guess. Remember Spice? How that was making everybody all freaking trip out and go crazy, and all the videos that you used to be able to see before they took them down. That was because it's synthetic, MK Ultra style experimentation on the population to see what happens when they use synthetic, quote unquote, cannabinoids on the people who are consenting to be lab rats because they're purchasing it, right? All kinds of things happen on those things. Complete breakdown psychosis, very impressionable, like subject to suggestion, like very easily controlled and manipulated by suggestion, and just freakouts and violence and all kinds of weird things that were happening from these whatever chemicals that they were putting into this spice that you were smoking. I never touched any of that stuff. I don't even like marijuana. I hate the feeling. I wait for it to end. I've tried it a few times. I accidentally took a CBD pen not too long ago, thinking that it was just CBD, but it had the whatever legal amount of THC in it too that doesn't require a card to have it, and I didn't know that. So I'm thinking it's just going to help my bone aches and my tendon soreness from the gym. And I hated my life for the next couple hours because I can't stand that feeling. I like being in control of who I am, what I am. I've done a lot of work, self-discovery, know thyself throughout my life, to where I like being in my body. I like being in my head or in my mind consciousness. If it's outside of you or if it's inside of you, if you're part of the fabric of the universe or whatnot, whatever however you want to explain that or conceptualize it. So when I tell you that I took this stuff, I bought it, I let it sit for like 3 months. I bought 7 grams of it, which is a lot because I was just like, they're probably going to get rid of this thing eventually because they usually do. So I bought a bunch of it and I did a bunch of reading on it and stuff like that. What was available, well, not very much back in 2012. But then I tried it. And sorry about that noise. And very little of it. So I have experienced fine white powder in the past, and it kind of seemed like that a little bit as far as the way it the effect was. And I have to explain to you that all bath salts weren't the same. Just like the spice, there was several different chemicals that they utilized because they were experimenting on the population. Now let me get into that for a second. If something is only available online, for the most part, sometimes gas stations were starting to carry it, like a Getty gas station had it unmarked, like they must have bought it online and then like resold it at their Getty gas station or whatever. And that was in upstate New York. They know your credit card information. They know who you are. They know where it's getting mailed to. So that's all the information they need, right? If they wanted to, I don't know, let's say observe you because they're experimenting on you. You've consented to be experimented on because you purchased the stuff, right? So gang stalking, notwithstanding, targeted individual type stuff, or just observation. They know eventually you're going to take it if you bought it, and then they're just going to wait and see what happens. And then if they want to manipulate you. You know that there's the people that are, and Tracy Twineman actually talked about this 3 years ago, and it was that they can target specific IP addresses to send stuff to your browser or whatnot, whatever you're online, like sites that they control, that only you see but other people on the platform don't. So you might think that makes you crazy because you're seeing things that aren't there for other people that are like, what are you talking about? Facebook was one of the big ones, Facebook being the DARPA project. They would send specific things to people, like surveys that other people never saw, talking about, there were thought experiments and profiling questions. Like, it would pop up a thing saying, if you had a blah 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 lifeboat, and it's basically saying, would you save these people or wouldn't you? And then they would judge you based on that, but they wouldn't tell you that. But there are these things that would pop up in Facebook way back when, till 2012 time. I saw a couple of them while I was on this stuff, and I saw them after the fact too, because I think I was being IP address targeted, to be honest with you. I was prior military, so there's also that. I've already basically, and even though you think it's temporary, when you get out, you're out. Not so much. I had a top secret clearance in the U.S. Coast Guard. They send feds around to talk to people, in person about your character and your affiliations, and they don't actually ever explain why they're asking. So I had my stepfather's parents ask if I was in trouble, if I was a convict on the run. I was in the Coast Guard. I was in the Coast Guard, and I needed a top secret clearance to be in the radio room for the telecommunications specialist position. So they went around and started asking everybody that I knew about me. So they're not going to just give up on that. When they put the time, effort, and investment of money into something like that, they got you. You basically signed over your, not so much your soul, but you're kind of a property of the military at that point, right? So I had that element in my repertoire, or to put this puzzle together, and now I'm able to be seen as having purchased this stuff. So I'm not saying that this was actually what happened, but these are all possibilities as to why I experienced these strange things that happened to me. I honestly think that the original formula for what was called Bolivian bath, because Bolivian bath only had one formula, but other bath salt type varieties like ivory and all this other weird shit, that stuff had multiple formulas. They would just say Formula 1, Formula 2, Formula 3, Formula 4 on the package. None of those were MDPV or methylalanine, because as they were, restricting the access to that stuff, the people were still selling it. It was still what I believe to be an MK Ultra drug test on the population, MK Ultra style drug testing to see what worked and what didn't and how effective they were on people that were willful participants because they're buying it. So what ended up happening is on MDPV, there was a cycle, an evolution process that happens from the time you start it and as you go along. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that in just a second here, but this is really strange. Think of it as like a cleansing, okay? You lived your whole life suppressed, programmed. You are born into a system that you don't question because that's all you know. Just like, if you're born into water, you don't see the water. You're a fish. You don't know about anything else. It's just where you are, right? Things are what they are. They have the values and properties, and you can assess things and see something. This is just a shaving can. You don't go around and say, wow, this has a lot of chemicals in it that can really harm you. No, you say shaving cream. That's it, shaving cream, right? Before you wake up, shaving cream. That's all it is. It's not poison intended to kill you. You don't see it as poison intended to kill you and give you rashes and get into your bloodstream through your skin. You don't see it like that. You just say shaving cream. We were making slime in here. My daughter was, so that's why this is here. Anyhow, I don't think MDPV and methylalanine or whatever the other component was was what they wanted. I don't think that's what the desired result was, because they had this stuff around for a while. It was a type of methamphetamine or something like that, but it was different. It's not completely the same, and those little differences mean all the difference. Like if you're going to say that we're 96% a cat or a 50% a banana, well, it's the differences that make all the difference, right? Because we're not a banana, and we're sure as hell not a monkey. I don't care what you think about that, but it's not true. That's bullshit, okay? Anything that has that's a symmetrical being, that has eyes, 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, 2 arms, 2 legs, is going to have a lot of similar DNA. But it's the little differences that make all the difference, okay? We don't have a pushed-in nose. We have a proboscis, however you say that. Protruding nose is basically what that means. So let me explain to you what happened with me. This is the first time I talked about it, because I've tried to many times start this conversation, and I have no idea how to actually explain it, and because it makes no sense. It goes beyond the barriers and boundaries of conceptualization, because it's completely alien and foreign. Other realms, different frequencies that you might be able to tune into, like a radio station. But I can tell you this, the overall impression that I got is that there's no such thing as other places. You don't need them. And if the law of conservation of the universe is real, then there's no wasted effort or energy or matter anywhere. So if you want to believe that we are mostly all empty space with little tiny particles here and there everywhere, and then the only thing that gives us volume and makes us seem solid is the magnetic field around these particles, then that would make a lot of sense that they don't need to be anywhere else, because they can just layer things on top of themselves. They meaning however way the universe is created, the formula mathematics of the universe, right? The substance of the ethereal thread of the fabric of the universe. So, and then I'll talk about the fabric of the universe in a second too, when it comes to like finding symbolism and numbers matching up in certain public ritual events. Some of that I think is just the natural equation or fabric. You're seeing the thread of the sweater, and you're saying, "Look at that thread." Well, the whole sweater's here, but you're just following that one thread as it's going up and down, looping, threading through, and you're thinking that it's because somebody intentionally did it. But I just think you're actually just seeing the code. You're seeing the source code of what makes us where we are, this holographic universe or whatnot. So, first time I took it, immediately energy, boom, euphoria, happiness. Oh my God, I was not feeling lethargic and downtrodden, right? And just ill. So I felt good, right? First time, and it would last for a very tiny amount. Like if you want to, compare this to like a really good bag of white stuff to like this little tiny bit of crisp, it's like less than, I think it was like, oh my God, it was like 5 something micrograms milk. I don't know. It was very little that was required. I had 7 grams of the stuff, and I just needed a very tiny bit to be plenty, So you start feeling euphoric, you start feeling good, you start getting curious, you start, I started going on to my iPod at the time with the internet access, and just looking through Yahoo and places like that, and just like reading up on things, and then I would see some other term, and this is the first time I ever did this in my life, right? I never looked into things before, but on this thing, it was like whatever was influencing me wanted me to download as much information of this place as possible. So was there a parasitic element to this stuff that was working through me? Maybe we don't understand how do we perceive our reality in the first place? How do we know that we're not if we just didn't see the ceiling here, that there'd be, people in white coats looking down at us, and this is our little rat maze, but we just don't see it because we're not programmed up here to be able to perceive that. How do we know? There could be a much bigger realm outside of us, and we could just be in a little petri dish for all we know. And this petri dish would be kind of funny because there's an ice rim, apparently, around us, right? Wouldn't that be like the walls? You see what I'm saying here? Okay. Analogies. We're just talking analogies here. So euphoria. Okay, great. You do a little more because, you don't like to be lethargic, and your heart races a little bit when you start to come down off it and you don't get to sleep. So sleep deprivation is another aspect of it. So that will mess up your REM sleep. That will mess up your need to decompress, replenish, charge your battery. And people will in sleep deprivation, sometimes they don't get over it for months and years afterwards, because you like when you're driving at night and you've been on the road forever and you've been up 36 hours, 26 hours driving across country like I have done a couple of times, the peripherals start seeing your shadows start turning into things, because your subconscious mind, your sleeping mind, starts to work its way into your conscious mind, right? So you start seeing and hearing things, maybe not so much hearing things, but you start conceptualizing things in your peripherals at first, and then it's time to go to bed. Time to pull over. Time to go to bed. Well, if you can't sleep, and this happens 3 or 4 or 5 days, then part of your waking dream will be part of your reality. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna see and feel things that are gonna be kind of strange, because it's gonna make you a little kooky dukes, because you're kind of having a dream while you're awake. So anyway, at first it wasn't anything. It was like, try it once, wait a couple of days, weeks, whatever, then try it again. Then I got to the point where I felt every time that I was doing it, I was learning something about myself and about the world. And my grandmother had just recently passed away in 2006. I know that's 6 years later, but if you understood how close I was to my grandmother and my aunt, who passed away when I was like 13, you'd understand that I'm always constantly trying to figure out and find a way to either avenge it, understand it, try to find if there really is an afterlife, to have something to look forward to so I could see them again. If we're all just parts of the same God, that would piss me off, because I actually love those people. I don't want to see it as a whole. I don't want to see it as a conglomerate. I don't want to just be one cell in God's body. I'd rather see the individuals who I learned to love and grew to love, who loved me. I don't want to be ripped off like that. So I was always seeking, at least in my mind, to try to make sense of, and to try to find evidence for an afterlife. If I could believe that I wasn't just wishfully thinking and my own thoughts, that I was being influenced by them still, then that would be great. That would give me something to look forward to. And so a lot of what I was feeling at the time was, I felt like I was on a path to find more of the evidence to that. So I kept taking it, because each time I started learning, it was all mental, but also I was doing a bunch of research at the same time while I was on it. And things started to make different sense to me than it ever did before, because I was starting to see into the esoteric aspects of this information as I'm going through Yahoo and, looking things up and going here and there and everywhere. So I was obsessed with it for a while. And this euphoric feeling was like a cleansing. Okay? It was like the couple times I did ecstasy back when I was in San Francisco and at raves. It was like that type of feeling, but not the same. And I felt very empathetic for the first time since I did it at the raves, right? Since I did, try ecstasy a few times. But this empathy, overwhelming empathy and love, the next day, even if I hadn't slept well that night, the sun was brighter, the greens were greener, I was content, and I felt at home in my hometown. I hardly ever have felt like I was ever at home anywhere in my life. Mostly because of the traumas of losing people that I loved. It changed my world for me, and I didn't feel like I belonged anymore. And so as I'm going through this experience, I noticed there was a turning point, okay? So this euphoric feeling, as I look back at it, felt like it was a cleansing, a clearing of the slate, because I was relearning everything all over again, okay? Everything that I just accepted at a certain value that was, basically delivered to us rather than us having to look for it ourselves and find the truth of things. I started questioning everything because I was just a data junkie, and I was, I spent all night looking up stuff, not just on my iPod, but my girlfriend at the time's laptop. And I was, and the stuff also makes you like super like, sexually energized too. So there's aspects of that also make it attractive, alluring to want to take it. And it's one of those things where it's like more like Tantra, because you'll feel everything, but you won't actually get to the finishing thing. But you could do Tantra for like 18 hours if you really wanted to. If somebody was willing and not get sore, you could do that. So there's that aspect to it too. But everything was like hyper intensified. So the sexual, feelings, the curiosity of the mind. I started reading the Bible, and I was actually reading the foreword, and it was creeping me the hell out. It was like the King James whatever, and it was like, it seemed evil to me. Come to find out later, Francis Bacon, Rosicrucians, you know what I mean. But I could sense things that were good, bad at that time, and it was pretty intense. So I could see into the esoteric or the hidden occult without really understanding that's what I was doing, but just sensing something deeper than what the surface explanation was. Like I could, after a while, when it started turning, and the euphoric thing had kind of like shifted gears, and now we're into a different phase of this stuff. I started sensing the wickedness of the world around me, and this is how I became got into this whole channel of wanting to understand what the hell is going on in this world, was because of these experiences. So I would never trade off that time in my life where weird things happen, and you can judge me if you want, but I had legitimate reasons to need something to supplement my energy. And when I came across this stuff, and I was like, cool, since I got rid of our ephedrine, this might work, and just tried it out. I mean, it was legal. What the hell's the fucking problem here, right? I wasn't doing anything illegal. I wasn't doing anything immoral. I was just trying something. I think they changed the recipe and still called it by its same street name to fuck with people, because I think they were unpleased with the results. Yeah, sure. It would make people more maybe suggestive. The power of suggestion might work more on people. They might be more impressionable. They might accept and maybe communicate more mentally with whatever the voice to skull technology would have been, or any other people just pop into their life and guide them in little micro adjustments certain ways. Like, could probably manipulate people a lot easier when they were on this stuff. But I also think there was a flip side to that they found quite undesirable, and I think this is why they got rid of it. Have you ever seen the movie They Live? Remember the glasses? Then they got contacts at the end? After the euphoric part ends, that period of time where you're just feeling the euphoric and you're kind of cleansing and the innocence, this is what I should say. It's like innocence is coming back into your life as if you were a child again. Okay, it's almost like it's like a spiritual experience. Like you feel like God is present in your life really strongly when you take this stuff. Like you feel more connected to heavenly God, benevolent, empathetic love than you've ever felt in your entire life. You don't give that up easy. You're deprived of it in this realm so badly that any speck of it, you want, what you've been missing, right? You feel like you're in contact with gnosis, with God, and you don't want that to stop. And doing this cleansing, this purification of you, bring you back to come as children, right? Giving you an opportunity to come as children again, to get rid of, it's like maybe a death experience. Maybe it is quite literally like a death experience on this stuff. Maybe I'm dead. I don't know. How the fuck do we know? Do we know what? We've never been dead that we know of, or we've never been alive and we are dead, or whatever the hell state this is. We don't know for sure. So who's to say what's what? Maybe I had a death experience. Maybe you don't die. Maybe you just fall into a different body in a different layer of this universe. When you die in one, you just kind of pop up into the consciousness of the other and you just keep going. How would you know? How would you know? Until it happens. Right? And how would you know you'd even have a memory of what happened? I had what I felt in my dreams. I had dreams a few times where I had the top of my head taken off, and my girlfriend, who I think was kind of a witch, and in the dream, and something shadowy figure were poking around at my brain with my top of my head off in my dream. Another one, I had a heart attack and died in my dream. And another one, when they tried to put me on Seroquel one time, I had a vision of there's a lot of wide open fields and like battlefields types in upstate New York, Saratoga battlefield, all that stuff, right? So think of like a big plain and then like troops lined up on one side, troops lined up on the other, like an archer and stuff like that. Like I literally was like not so much a Braveheart character, but like that type of thing, like person with a sword fighting evil. Like I was evil, I was fighting against evil in this dream where it was just like an old, primitive battleground scene, but I was there on a horse fighting, quite literally, in my dream. Evil, straight up evil. Evil people coming at you. Strange as shit, right? And I feel like it was the drug that I was actually fighting because I had taken it once and I was like, never again. The Seroquel, the pharmaceutical stuff that they told me I should take for some reason. And I don't ever go to the VA. Fuck those people. Anyway, it was like a suggestion, like offhanded, and I was like, all right, I don't know anything about this. This is back before I questioned things. Oh, doctor said to take this. Okay, cool. And then never again. And never since then has anybody recommended me take it, ever. So that's kind of strange that they would it was just strange. Lots of weird things happened strangely during this time that I was experimenting with this stuff. So the purification. So that they live glasses, okay? You start seeing things for what they are too much for their taste, I think. And I think that's the reason why they wanted to supplement it with something else that made people psychotic and eat faces and do all kinds of other things and discredit and disassociate people from ever wanting to even consider exploring that avenue because they called it the same name, but they changed the formula. And I think that's the reason why they did it. If you ever seen the show Grimm, it was on a long time back in 2012, where the faces would get all long and they get all freaked out when they saw Grimm because like he was like the killer of ghouls type of dude. So they would show the real self to him and they're like that. Literally, that happened to me a few times in the store. In a grocery store, a woman like started freaking out and staring at me and started like she could have been a homeless crazy, but she saw me walking with my girlfriend at the time, and she just was like literally like a freaking They Live movie. Like, we have one who can see, like that type of shit. It was the most bizarre experience I have ever, and I hadn't even seen these movies until after the fact, so I didn't have these as reference points to gauge what I was experiencing on. Absolutely incredible. So, like I said, I think that opened up enough curiosity to me to wonder how much of what I experienced was real and how much of what I experienced was like mental or because of the substance or whatever. But and what's the difference? Because I don't think mushrooms make you hallucinate. I think they make you see more of what's going on right here in our reality. It's a chemical. It's a neurological chemical. So all it's going to do is allow you to perceive more, right? And then you have to find, then your brain, not knowing what to do with the data, is trying to make sense of it. So you get what's called a hallucination, or things don't seem to make sense because it shouldn't make sense because you haven't ever experienced this before. So therefore, it's just a hallucination. No, I don't buy that. I think there's a spiritual, esoteric, metaphysical property to whatever you feel on psilocybin that is explained away and discredited, just like with the acid. I think acid is more of like the chemical evil, counterpart to psilocybin. Anyhow, You can't control things that are unnatural, right? But why is it that a mushroom? So here's and here's the thing. Here's something to ponder if you really want to, bake your noodle, as they said in the Matrix. Is it that mushrooms, for some reason, that come from the earth, have a human neurochemical, as we're told, or is it we are a product of whatever that nature is, and it's really their neurochemical in us? And are we the avatars for nature? Are we how the trees walk around and experience life? Just something to think about, because there's no answer to that yet. So you can understand why, when you can see how evil and wicked things are, and you just wake up one day and you start looking at like I was showing with the shaving cream thing, looking at all the chemicals and methyl, whatever. Every time it's methyl anything I see, shit for brains, right? Meth heads are shit for brains, right? Methane, shit for brains. Okay? So when you see methyl blah 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 in your body wash, you're bathing yourselves in, and this is with the perception I had, in shit, and the devil is laughing at you. He's laughing at you because you are so naive and you have no idea what's going on, that you're bathing yourself in filth, in chemicals, in poison, and then you're going about your day. You're trying to clean yourself with garbage, okay? You're drinking garbage, you're eating garbage all day long. It's all mockery, dark mockery. And throughout your television, like, I couldn't watch TV because I could see so many different ways of perceiving the information that they were giving us, that I think I started seeing the wicked mockery programming of television. Like, let's give you an example. Like, there's a show called Burn Notice that was popular on USA. It was about a guy named Michael Weston, which is kind of funny in and of itself. Rises in the east, sets in the west, in the west. Archangel Michael, fights the devil. In the show, he's a CIA operative, so he thinks he's doing good by being in the CIA because he, very, very superficial understanding of the organization, and then they burn him, which means they give up his cover while he's on a mission, and they leave him basically to get killed by the he's a spy that's no longer secret. So obviously, if he's in the middle of lying to people for some cause that he believes in, well, now they all know. They all got noticed that he is an operative, he is an agent, and now they're all trying to kill him. And his department betrayed him, and now he's trying to figure out who did it, why. And the show goes on to think that there's just bad actors, bad people in the CIA, not so much that the CIA is evil, which is obviously a misconception. It is. It's Jesuit-run evil. So he is basically like the archangel, trying to. Now he's hunted, right? Because he's a threat. And I couldn't watch that and not personalize that feeling. And then I kind of felt like at certain times that I was like E.T. in a sense that I was being hunted, and that I didn't realize, but I had just woken up, and because I, was walking through the lion's den, being in this realm of life, and for some reason decided when I took that stuff to just throw my disguise off so that the lions knew that I wasn't another lion. Well, now they're all looking at me kind of curious, like, where'd you come from and who are you? The abyss was looking at me with an eyebrow raised, like, who the hell is that? I stared into the abyss, and the abyss was just more confused at first than anything. And then it started playing with its food. So, and this is me explaining the mental process that was going on through it. Another thing that a theme that was running through my mind at the time, whatever was trying to guide me through this thing, when you go back and you listen to what Bill Cooper has talked about with the initiations, where they drug you, they tell you that you're drinking blood, severed head thing. There's also, if you're tripping balls and you see a severed anything, or somebody, you're blah freaked out, right? Dark hallways, passage, corridors, subterranean, complete darkness, blackness that they put these people through in the initiation. It's there to scare them. They're supposed to be terrified. So there are parallels to my experience in an initiation by hands I could not see. There were other times where things interacted with me that I know were real, but it was like something was trying to fuck with me. I don't know if it was somebody in a van or if it was something else or if it was somebody messing with the IP, but things on my computer never did anything like, you know how Facebook works. It's strange that other things would pop up during the time that I was on stuff like that, and it would, and off it after the fact, and it would never do it again. I don't know what Facebook was trying to do at the time, but I think maybe they had your IP address. They were just messing with you. Okay. There's a lot to talk about there, huh? So how am I going to go about this now? So I think that they pulled it because I think there was probably a lot of people who woke up just like the people who put on the glasses and they live. And it was more of a resistance to what was going on than it was. It didn't matter if they could control them. Oh, okay. So if you run your food is the theme that was running through my mind. If you act like prey, you are perceived as prey and you are treated like prey. So when you don't have a reaction, even if you feel something, you feel like you should because you're confused, you don't understand anything that's happening to you, but you just take it and you calmly take it, confidently take it, passively take it without any type of, energy given. You're not giving and feeding your energy to this thing. Then it can't really do anything to you. Not in that realm, not whatever realm I was in. I think I was just, this stuff accelerates you. So maybe I was on a different frequency. The dial was turned up a little bit, so I was seeing things from that radio station. You understand what I mean? And like a time my cousin was over, and I swear to God, this happened. And before I knew anything about Freemasonic anything, he literally said to me, even though he says he never said this, as he's leaving the door, we're watching Burn Notice, and I can't take it. I'm on the floor sitting, in my house, because we were like a bunch, people there, and I was just kind of chilling, and I kind of like slid the remote control over to him. I'm like, I'm done. I can't even watch this right now. I said I love this show, but I don't know what's going on with me. I can't enjoy it. It's freaking me out. And then a little bit later, he leaves, and as he's leaving, he turns around and says, "You have 3 days to decide." What the hell does that mean? He says he never said it. I heard it. Like I said, an initiation from hands he could not see. How long was the J-Man in the cave before he was resurrected? Death and resurrection ritual, right? You have 3 days to decide. Fucking crazy. Insane experience. And what's really funny is I didn't plan this, but in 2008, I walked away from society. I walked away from a mortgage job because it was after the subprime stuff was over and it was already just kind of pointless to do things. And I left everything behind and just whatever I could fit into my old Coast Guard sea bag, the big green bag, right? I threw it on me and I just walked. I said I was in Florida at the time, in the kind of the southern part, like a Tamarack, and I walked through that state basically, and then the whole plan was to go all the way across to California and just walk there and start a new life. And as I was away from society long enough, I felt like castaway in a sense, because I could start seeing. This is before. It's not being anything. This is before the whole MVP experience by like 4 years, right? I could sense a good and evil struggle because I wasn't part of the system anymore. I was walking, so I wasn't homeless. I had a destination. I knew where I was going. But I walked away from everything with just stuff I could carry in my backpack and just grab things as I could along the way. And A lot of the disposable cameras, none of the film worked in it, so that kind of sucked because I took a lot of cool pictures out along the way too. Walking through Florida, hearing the wild boar at night, they could gore you without any hesitation. They gore each other. Why wouldn't they? Why would they think twice about you? Wild coyotes and dogs all night. When I'm just and I didn't do a tent. I just would park my ass somewhere and just lay down on the ground and put one of those like things that look like you're a baked potato, the one of those like those silver foil blankets over you that you get like at like in the camping section of like Walmart. Yeah, that was an experience, getting bitten by ants and shit. But yeah, so 40-day, not planned, just it happened that I had sponsors. I had a whole website thing called American Dreams Walk 2740 or something like that, because that's how many miles it said it was going to be. And that was the website, adw2740.com or whatever, or at whatever, Yahoo. I don't even know the passwords to those anymore. I'm sure they're still up, but I don't, whatever. Anyhow, I had sponsors at first. VPX was one of them. The sports supplements. They gave me a bunch of supplements, but they didn't give me any money. A goji berry company gave me a bunch of goji berries, dried goji berries to go. And I had a press release put out by them. And I also was on the news for the American Dreams Walk, I called it, because I put up a couple posts. One of the guys at the gym, I think maybe it was kind of like making a joke. This guy named Carrie, oh God. Carrie something. Carrie, it was 2 C's. It's like a weird name. He was in CBS, ABC. I can't remember. It's one of the local stations in like Cooperstown. Not Cooperstown, Coopersville. It's Tamarack, like Fort Lauderdale area. And they did a little thing on me, and they equated my ambitions to Forrest Gump, which was kind of funny. They were making fun of me. It's okay. It was publicity, right? So who cares? And yeah, Carrie. Oh fuck! I know he's still there. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so they did all that, and then I lost sponsorship along the way. I was like, I'm about to go through like the deserts of Texas without water. Do you think you could help out a little bit? Like, you think you could like drop something off? It's like, no. I was like, all right, well, I'm not going to go through the desert with snakes and and scorpions and no water, so I guess I'm done here. And it took a total of 40 days to complete, so 40 days and 40 nights. Whatever, right? More linkage unexpectedly to that biblical theme. And then here comes this experience where I'm told, you have 3 days to decide. So what has been prepping me this whole time? I don't know. But the whole point of this is, I think that they stopped the experiment and rushed in to change the formulas and flip the script on what people were experiencing on bath salts. Because, of course, if it's alluring like that, you're going to buy more of it when you run out. I just happen to have a lot of the same one, so I didn't have the freak out experiences that everybody else did, where they're chewing up their own feet and eating the flesh off of other people's faces. Strangely enough, like zombies, right? I didn't have that experience. I had euphoria, and then after I was cleansed from this world that I was in throughout my whole life, once the water in the aquarium was drained and fresh water was put in, and I was a child again, I saw how evil the system was, because it was like a chemical lobotomy. I had to relearn everything. And when you relearn it without a lifetime of programming and conditioning to guide you into believing that certain things have certain values, then you perceive them purely for what they are. And when you realize that it's all fucking evil and dark, sarcastic mockery, then you ask yourself, where the fuck am I? Because this doesn't seem like the world I used to live in. And maybe it wasn't. Maybe, like I said, these are layered realms. And I just was on a different frequency for a while. But I remember thinking that when people say, oh, I'm awake, and there's the Gaia TV type of person that's in yoga pants all the day long, and they think that they're somehow, oh, this is, so let's burn some sage, I'm so awake. No, If you're awake, you're fucking terrified. Okay? But you don't show it, because if you run, you're food. You get it? You just have to be calm. I've had this experience with police officers before. You get agitated, you get resistant, you get defensive, you're fucked. You talk calmly to them, and I was in the back of a car, about ready to be carted away, and they're like, dude, just get your shit together. And he fucking let me home, and he let me drive a car that he knew that I didn't have a license for, valid one, home. He went from about to bust me, my ass, to like, he's not getting any of the feedback energy that he likes. Like, I was like hacking the system of this realm just by being calm. And I got out of it. Lots of reasons could have been for that, but I mean, there might be something to that you might want to explore. Could be something to that. So if you run your food, you get it? That's the best thing that you could take away from that. If you act defensive, if you feed them the energy that they expect, when you give them something else, it fucks them up. And then they don't know what to do with you. It's like, let's move on to an easier target or something, So there you have it. That was my experience with the MDPV bath salts. I didn't ever eat anybody's face. I didn't get psychotic. I didn't get aggressive. I got sexually energized and very curious about knowledge. And relearned everything. I had unlearned everything that I Yoda'd my shit. Okay? I went full on Yoda. I unlearned what I have learned. And I had to reprogram and relearn everything all over again, which is scary. Especially when you realize that you're not in a friendly place. And everything that you used to think was safe or, trustworthy is now all showing its true colors. And you have to remain calm through all that. Because if you run your food, pretty interesting stuff. But I would highly recommend, if anybody was ever so bold as to explore the true chemical properties of that stuff, either in like a lab setting or whatever, I guarantee you there's something maybe metaphysical, spiritual about that chemical that allows you to see. And because it breaks away and cleanses you of all the bullshit that you think you know, and they do it, it's done in a loving, empathetic way, almost as if someone's trying to connect with you. Someone who's trying to get you out of the programming. Think about that for a while. And why they would want to sweep that away. Oops. Our bad. Let's try something else here. And we should probably burn this building down by adding different chemicals in there that fuck people up, so that everything that ever after the fact gets talked about with bath salt will be in a negative, derogatory, how could you fucking do that? What would make you think you should take that stuff type of attitude? Well, I just told you why. Because it wasn't the same stuff. It was a different chemical using the same street name. Ballbusters out. Love you guys. Hey, listen. I have to tell you something else too. I am creating a Ballbusters website finally. It's going to be powered by RokuTV, the channel. So you'll have the RSS feed from Spreaker, which has all my podcast versions of it. You're going to have a link to the Joshu Radio network, which also has my stuff on it, and the live playing stream. Like, so you just, it's a playlist, so it's playing it all the time. It's not on demand selection. And also my RokuTV channel with all my 358 videos to date on it from the last 3.5 years. So you'll be able to see all the stuff that I've got into. The stuff that I've researched since then has been because of the curiosity that was sparked in me. I didn't have the curiosity before. I just knew I hated government and cops. Now I'm this thing, whatever the fuck I am. And that's what I am now because of that experience. Okay? During that same time, 2012, there was an old man who I believe might have been a pastor at some church who said he was on television a few times and on news saying he had mathematically figured out rapture and that it was happening at that moment. That's the same time the strangeness was occurring in my life, while I also just so happened to be taking this substance. Okay? So there might be something to that as well. He died, so his rapture did come. There's also a really strange, horrific storm where lightning was like hitting in my backyard at the apartment complex, Carpenter Village. Carpenter. Funny. Who else was a carpenter? Geez, symbolism you just can't get rid of in this realm of, when you're studying the fabric of the universe and you're seeing all the numbers and symbols pop up. Lightning striking. And a transformer box exploded like a grenade in our backyard because of the water level, I guess. I don't know what happened. So many strange things happened. And I'll tell you another thing that happened. One night, I'm laying kind of starting to rest a little bit. I know I wasn't asleep, but I was half the way there, right? Laying with my girlfriend at the time, who I think is probably an Irish witch at that moment in time. Celtic witch. I'm laying there in bed, and the head of the bed is up against the wall, right? Obviously, most people don't put it in the middle of the room. It doesn't make any sense. But it's obviously, so the head of the bed is pushed up against the wall. The foot of the bed is facing a closet that has 2 opening doors, and the doors are open. And I don't usually like sleeping like that, like I'm shut. But for some reason, at least in my dream, they were open, or whatever the hell state of consciousness I was in. Shadow figures that were tall and skinny grabbed me, pulled me into the closet, off the bed, just like whoop, like super fast, like whoop, like there was absolutely no friction involved. And what happened? I came through the other side and landed on the bed again where I was. Was I pulled into a different realm? What the hell was that all about? That was exactly like this realm, just with different properties, different values. Like you assess the value of something, like you evaluate it. You understand what I mean? Like it has a different set of, there's different understanding as to what it means, right? So that happened. Like I was pulled through the closet and landed right back in the bed. Through the wall, the head of the bed. I didn't feel myself going through the wall. I just felt myself landing back on the bed with literally felt it. And then there's times when I'm sleeping and I would get like a pulse, like electric shock, where my leg would kick up in the air and I would like a big, huge electric charge went through my body and it would wake me up and I'd flip. Crazy stuff. You never have that sense like you're falling in bed, like you trip over stairs in your dream or something like that, and you like actually like flip and move, because that's how like connected your brain is to things, right? So if you feel like you're falling, you actually fall sometimes, right? Like you actually like feel that feeling, and you actually move in your sleep. Quite dramatically move in your sleep. Well, these shocks would happen to me a lot. And maybe it's because, I'm being like, it's a stimulant or whatever, but it would be like, clear, like that type of thing. Like you just like, so these are all just elements I'm throwing out there. I'm not really trying to explain what they all mean and how they go together. I'm just saying these are things that I had experienced. Weird people would show up in my life. I found myself in one time just driving and I ended up at a cemetery, and I had a little bit of stuff with me, and I saw a fish in the water, and something was telling me to be like Prometheus, basically, before that movie even came out, I think. And I sprinkled a little bit into the water for the fish, like waking up its consciousness or something. And then there was a water supply that was on a hill that was running down, and for some reason I sprinkled a little bit of that stuff in there too. It was like a process of symbolism throughout this whole thing, where something else was kind of like guiding me to do it, but I don't think it was telling me to do things poorly. Like I don't think it was misguiding me. I think something else could have been there that would have tried to influence me if this other thing wasn't there, keeping it away from me. All right. So anyway, I'm creating a Ballbusters website with Josh. Okay, and it's gonna have all the connections to all the things I do. But I want to make a Ballbusters network, and I've got a lot of people that are really awesome on my Instagram and Telegram. They're always showing me things and keep me up to date on these weird, strange, esoteric things and these really weird symbolic things and just things in general, right? I've got Chris, an awesome correspondent from Russia, who shows me things about Putin and Russia that we don't see because of our filtering of the Western media. So I get to see stuff like that. I want to create a network where other people can actually be part of a Ballbusters network where their shows are on it as well. I figured out what I need, and it's going to be at the bare minimum to make my computer operate where it needs to have the right setup for the audio and all kinds of other stuff. Heightened internet thing, capacity, storage, and all that stuff. About $2,400 altogether. But that's with a computer that I need to build for myself on my own. That's going to be anywhere between, depending on how much I get. These components, they go up and down in price over time. Like, you just got to get them at the right time. But they probably under $1,500. So the other money is for the audio stuff to get a actual board and a, like a Rodecaster or something similar to that. And then this will all be a whole lot better. I just think it looks great now, but there's other things that I could do, especially since I know that this HP screws up my voice. I can hear it differently in my headphones. It comes out higher pitched on the actual recordings, and that's because of the software. So anyhow, we're going to try to fix all that. But I want to invite people onto this, but I also need people's support that actually like the show, because this is how I have a book I'm writing. Okay, this story that I was going to say for the book I just told you about. I'm also adding what's called the timeline of tyranny to the book. This is just a stupid outline sketch of it, and I'm going to talk about the Baal cult and the Ugaritic texts and try to answer the question: is Baal the bad guy, or are the priestcraft who are directing people as to how to worship Baal the bad people? Were they corrupting it? Like, let's say, for instance, because there's a body and blood of Christ theme to the Bible, what if a cult of so-called breakaway Christians started actually eating people? Now, does that make Jesus bad, or does it make them bad? You understand what I mean? That doesn't corrupt the message of Jesus just because they perceive it in a literal sense to where they start eating babies. You know what I mean? I mean, that's actually happened, so that's why I'm actually using this as an example. So that's the distinction I want to make. Is Baal the bad guy, or are the people who decided to latch onto Baal as their reasoning and their excuse for what they're telling the people and the masses how to worship, because they're manipulating them and controlling them? Is that who it is? Is it both? Are both bad? I don't know yet. I'm researching. From what I can tell so far, though, that El was actually the benevolent creator, but he also had real human attributes. Like, they could smell, they could taste, they could fuck. When his wife comes in to ask a favor of him to El about creating a pantheon for Baal after he has defeated Typhon and all this other stuff, he told his daughter no, but he couldn't say no to his wife. But before she gets a chance to address her business there, he's like, "You want some food? You want some sex?" And she's like, "Later, but first let me get through this." So they had human attributes in the sense that they, you don't have to think about, you can be a benevolent creator and a jolly old man and still not be celibate, or what do you call it? A lot of the times, also, the Essenes weren't abstinent. They were tantric. That's another thing you should learn. They just didn't go to climax. So it wasn't that they were... Some people in those times thought that that's what you had to do. But, like, to say that all the Essenes were, like, they were celibate, well, how did they make more of each other? And obviously I understand the difference between that. Well, every once in a while you can do that. But no, they were tantric, and they utilized the energy power of containing themselves to boost their inner energy, wisdom, gnosis, through not expelling, because that was called the tiny death in other cultures. I believe that was India. They called it the tiny death, because you feel relieved, but you're actually losing connection with a higher thing. You want to believe that? That's fine. You don't want to believe it? Great. Robert Sepper is where I got that from. He's cool. Some of the stuff he gets into when he's letting these other people talk on his, format, I'm saying, like, he's taking clips of videos. Some of these people get a little weird into the tantric stuff, like a little like weird. He just presents it as information. It's not saying that this is how you should think about it, which is fine. You can't, just because it's something offends you doesn't mean you should omit it from the big picture, right? If people are actually practicing this, let's at least understand what the hell they're doing, right? So that's it. So guys, right above my head this whole damn time, you've seen tippystream.com/BAAL hyphen BUSTERS hyphen, /donation. Hit it up, please. If you want to go straight to PayPal and do it, because that's where it actually ends up landing anyway, it's paypal.me. Is that right? /ballbusters. Yeah, paypal.me, I'm pretty sure, /ballbusters. You go right to it, and then you can help me out that way. And then there's givesendgo.com /ballbusters. 3 different methods. But if I can get enough to actually create this thing, it's going to take money. I have to pay Josh to create this site because his time is worth something. He's a hell of a guy when it comes to knowing how to create things, keeping them secure so they don't go down. This site is going to be better than freaking brand YouTube was, and it's going to be a network for other people to be able to put their videos on as well and have them shared here. And this will be the hub for everybody. You guys want to branch off and make your own websites? I totally encourage you to do that. But you can also be on this site with me and present your information, your research, and be, we can support one another and promote one another. All right. So that's my goal. That's my goal moving forward, because pretty soon we're probably all going to get shut down. So let's make the community now while we still can. All right. All right. Strange topic for today, but go ahead and follow me on Instagram @ballbusters. Go to t.me /ballbuster studios. Get in on the conversation. I'll add you to the group. You'll hear a lot of cool stuff from the other people that are following on that. And I actually, hey Nick, Obsidian, all you guys. If I didn't mention yours specifically, Full Sun Farms or whatever I think it is. I look at it every day, but my brain is weird like that when it comes to recollection. It's just weird. Anyway, you guys are awesome. Specifically, you guys on Americ.org, something like that, over on Telegram, and then Chris, of course. You guys are great, and hope to build that community bigger and stronger. All right, talk to you. Ballbusters out. Hit up these things, please. I really appreciate it. Bye.